Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and this is Taking Care of Business. Joining me today is Corinne Pohlmann, who is Senior Vice-President, National Affairs and Partnerships with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks for joining us today, Corinne.
Thanks for having me, Mario.
Interesting report CFIB put out today regarding labor shortages in Canada and their impact on small businesses. 55% small businesses say they can't get the staff they need. Why is this an important issue, have become such an important issue for small business community out there?
Well, it's interesting because we actually dealt with the shortage of labor issue prior to the pandemic even starting. It kind of disappeared because, of course, so many businesses had to shut down and lay people off. What's happened is that we're now back into it again because things are, of course, starting to reopen. Not saying anything's back to normal by any means, but it is definitely sort of going towards that. So that has come back. But layered on top of that, of course, is the fact that all these people got laid off at the same time, and now everybody's trying to hire them back. And so there's this huge competition for folks to bring them back into the labor market. Which I think has just skyrocketed the labor shortages that we're seeing. A lot of people left the industries they were in because they didn't want to keep getting laid off. So they've moved into other areas. And of course, we're still dealing with the demographics we had prior to the pandemic. That's layering on top of everything else here.
So what are the implications of this for first of all, for the small business owners out there and for the economy in general in Canada if businesses can't get people to do the work?
They're pretty severe because if you can't get the people to do the work, you may have to turn down projects or the ability to expand your business or be able to provide all the services that you want to provide to the public. So we all, I probably remember pre-pandemic and may even start seeing it now, businesses who don't open every day of the week or don't open as late as they used to because they just don't simply have the people. What does that mean also? So there's less accessibility for the public. There could be obviously less opportunity in terms of allowing people to grow their businesses. So it does have some pretty severe implications. And so it's something, it's not unique to Canada either. This is something we're seeing in many other jurisdictions around the world. So even if you wanted to bring in new immigrants, for example, you're competing with people around the world who want to do the same.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the why further here. So why have we gotten into this situation here in Canada?
Well, essentially because we're in what we call an aging population. So we have fewer and fewer young people at the working age and more people who are sort of retirement age and older who have to be sort of taken care of. And so that's a bit of what's happening in Canada. We're also seeing a lot of mismatch of skills. So it's not just the shortage of labor, it's also the fact that the skills that are required are not the skills that are necessarily people that are applying for the jobs. So we have to figure out ways to help people retrain into new areas, be willing to take on jobs that may be different than the areas in which they were trained. And so there's a lot of things we need to think about when it comes to dealing with the shortage of labor. So those would just be a couple of the things that I think are part of the challenge that are facing us right now.
Okay, and what about let's talk a little bit about the pandemic and in certain industries, obviously like restaurants and hospitality, the disruption that the pandemic has caused for many of those businesses, being locked down, then coming back, being locked down, then coming back, I would imagine they've lost a lot of their source of talent, right? Because people probably just moved on and said, what, I'm tired of this, right?
100%. It's very much the case. Plus, not so many have moved on to other areas. One great example I heard was, people that used to be hired to clean hotel rooms after guests left. Many of them left to move on to work in old age homes or retirement homes, for example, and helping out there. So they transitioned to other industries. So others, of course, they now have more opportunities because everybody's hiring in the restaurant industry right now. So you can pick and choose a little bit because everybody's competing for more limited talent. So definitely those industries that have been hardest hit by the pandemic are probably also the ones that are feeling the most pinch from the shortage of labor, but it is pretty widespread right across the economy.
Okay, super. Where does I guess the issue of wages, how does this play into all this? Is it do companies and business owners have to pay more to get get people these days?
Well, we often hear from folks when there's a shortage of labor, they say, well, businesses should just pay more and then they can get more people in. Well, I can tell you the vast majority of our members have tried paying more. It hasn't always been successful in helping me find the people because the people are just not there. In fact, I would say most of those businesses that need people, that's one of the strategies they use right away, is to figure out how to increase their salaries as much as they possibly can without becoming less competitive or less profitable themselves. I mean, they have to also pay themselves and their families and take care of them. So that's definitely, I think, an element of all of this as well. So they've had to look at other alternatives to just that in order to attract people to work in their locations.
Yeah, that's true. And finally, any solutions to this? Like, are we just faced with this situation for the years to come, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that there is no single solution. It's going to be something that's going to require a real strategic and broad approach. Things like immigration, I think we need to do a better job of bringing a better connection between people coming into Canada and the types of jobs that are available in Canada. I think the temporary foreign worker program is another really good resource for a lot of businesses in Canada and could potentially be expanded on and grown in a way that makes sure that the employees that are brought over are safe, but are also giving opportunities to many of them to become maybe Canadian citizens at the end of the day. I think it's looking at new training programs, dealing with that skills mismatch that's out there. So providing training opportunities for individuals, but also providing some training dollars to businesses who do a lot of that training is definitely a key piece of this as well. Definitely, we're looking at things like automation. I think a lot of businesses have looked at automation as a means of potentially, reducing the number of people they'll need to run the business. So those are just some of the different ways that we have to look at in order to attract more people into the workplace that'll actually help keep these businesses running.
All right, super. Thanks for joining us today, Corinne.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that was Corinne Pohlmann, who is Senior Vice-President of National Affairs and Partnerships with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. I'm Mario Toneguzzi. This has been Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.